Good morning. Please stand.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the cold and damp, when my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking, people hearing without listening, people writing songs and voices
Thank you. Please be seated. Some people just can't help making a difference in our lives by simply being who they are. They make the world a little brighter, a little warmer, a little gentler. And when they're gone, we realise how lucky we are to have known Matt. The world has lost a very special person. Good morning, welcome, and thank you for your presence today at our service for Matthew Dennis Hunt. On behalf of Matt's family, welcome to you all, his friends and best mates, his colleagues, Prime Minister Right Honourable Jacinda Ardern, and other honourable guests. Each of us has been touched by Matt's death. For every person here today, there are many more people holding Matt and his family in their hearts. So welcome to those of you joining us via live streaming. I want to acknowledge the courage of Matt's family in choosing to share this service, to grieve personally, and at the same time to recognise the collective grief so many in New Zealand and beyond feel. Several ceremonies of cleansing, blessing, and grieving in community have already taken place. Each in their own way, through prayer, song, and haka, have begun that painful journey of recognising the tragic loss of a young man. And so it is for us. Matt lived his life with purpose, and we, in our turn, purposefully gather to honour him. Today is an opportunity for those who knew and loved Matt to pay their respects and share treasured memories. I'm Kerry Ann Stanton, celebrant. Welcome. Apparently, if Matt were here, he would want a short, sharp service with humour. He would not want to have organised it or to speak at it. For our part, we have kept it simple. Tributes from the New Zealand Police, stories from his friends, and finally words of love from his family. A montage of photos and music as a portal into Matt as the complex human being he was. Following the conclusion and blessing, Matt will be carried out by police pallbearers and followed by immediate family and friends. In keeping with tradition, he will be led out by police piper. Further police honours will take place on field number 1 here at Eden Park. We will need to coordinate a number of movements for this to happen. First, serving and past members of police who wish to take part in the Guard of Honour or police haka shall head to stairwells B and C and follow usher instructions onto the field. Once police have moved to the field, everyone else is invited to follow on through stairwells B and C and follow usher instructions to the seats in the stands to witness those police honours on the field. And I will guide you in starting this exit. At the conclusion of the police honours, you are invited to the West Stand Lounge for a light refreshment. Ushers will guide you to that location. Much has already been written in the press about Constable Matthew Dennis Hunt. Today's service is a more personal time of stories and tributes. He was born on the 30th of July 1991, son of Diane and Graham, and eventually big brother of Eleanor. Raised on the Hibiscus Coast by his mother Diane with his sister Eleanor, he attended local schools, Orewa North and Orewa College. Here he made the friendships that became his extended family of brothers and sisters. They will speak of the camaraderie and companionship that was just always there. He played and enjoyed softball and soccer, all sport really. He was a methodical planner, constantly building the foundations of his life: university, the courts, prisons, and finally the New Zealand police. He travelled with one of his best mates, Regan, across Europe and then lived in the UK. Empathetic, a multifaceted young man at the cusp of the next phase of adulthood. Around 28 is often a time of transition from young adult to full adult. This was the case for Matt. At almost 29, Matt was content and was living a full and rich life, ready to make the most of the opportunities awaiting him. A life coming together in all aspects, and we will not get to live that with him. As Diane has said, my beautiful boy, 28 years young, will never have another birthday. Instead, we have gratitude for a life shared and enjoyed, commingling with the grief of a future life cut off. Matt relished his role in the police, ready to move and go where the opportunities were. He loved testing himself. He loved the discipline of sport, of teams, of his work. Let us hear from each of those teams, those families, and we're going to start with Police Commissioner Andrew Costa and Sergeant Dean Taylor, Matt's sergeant for 2 years at Orewa. So, Commissioner, when you're ready.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Greetings to you all. It is a privilege to be here with you today to pay tribute to Constable Matthew Hunt. I'm honoured to be here on behalf of New Zealand Police and our whānau, our family of 14,000. Matt's memory is front of mind for us all. Diane, Eleanor, Graham, Matthew's wider family and large circle of friends, thank you for letting us share this moment with you. Police staff across this country and beyond are today wearing the huia pin in memory of Matt. Together we grieve with you, we share your loss, we will never forget Matt. We will never forget his huge enthusiasm for his family, his sport, his mates and colleagues, and we won't forget that he loved his job serving his community. Matt's death has touched all New Zealanders. We've seen an outpouring of condolences from the public, from community leaders, from Parliament, from overseas police. The presence today of the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Jacinda Ardern, and the Minister of Police, the Honourable Stuart Nash, is testament to the respect in which Matt is held for his service to New Zealand and his ultimate sacrifice for that service. That Matt was loved and respected by colleagues is very evident. He lived the police values and he seized the opportunities the job gave him to serve his community and make a difference. There's no higher calling than to serve, protect and care for others. Policing is defined by service to the community. Like his colleagues, Matt was an ordinary person doing extraordinary things. Part of the satisfaction of policing lies in dealing with the unexpected. However, the unexpected also makes our job inherently dangerous. In 1963, the minister at another police funeral said, "We're reminded there's a price to be paid for upholding the law. We're not always mindful of how much the police are required to give." On 19 June, we saw the terrible truth of these words. We are appalled by the senseless taking of a young life and the sort of circumstances which keep us awake at night. But the job of policing goes on. Every day and night, women and men put on the uniform as Matt did, and go out there as Matt did, not knowing what the shift will bring, but knowing that their actions will make a difference. The police family is tied in that single garment of destiny. We work together, we celebrate together, and we mourn together. I want to make special mention of Matt's colleague who was working with him on 19 June. I commend you for your bravery and for doing all that you could in that horrendous situation. I also pass on my best wishes to the member of the public who was injured for your ongoing recovery. Diane, Eleanor, Graham, your close and extended family. From the moment Matt joined New Zealand Police, you became part of the police family. 14,000 members of that family have their arms held out to you. Today they wear the huia pin over their hearts for Matt. We together will never forget him. We will continue to honour his life, his service and kindness to others, his integrity, his generosity, and we will honour it for generations to come. We will do this in the way we go about our business, with the courage and compassion that Matt showed as he made his contribution to build a safer country for all who live or visit here. On behalf of New Zealand Police, I offer you our sincere and deepest sympathy for your loss. Constable Matthew Hunt, thank you for your service. May you rest in peace.
My name is Dean Taylor and I'm the Section 4 Supervisor for the Public Safety Team at Waitemata North. Constable Matthew Dennis Hunt, Matt, started his career in the police as a recruit in Wing 312 on the 30th of October 2017. The wing patron was Sir Mark Solomon. He graduated on the 9th of March 2018. His mother Diane told us he was so proud on this day, becoming a constable. End of March 2018, Matt commenced duty at the Orewa Police Station on the Public Safety Team, also known as PST, Section 4. A few months later, I was placed as the sergeant on PST4. Although at that time, Matt was the junior member of the team, he stood out. Matt was a humble guy and wouldn't want this fuss. However, Matt, on this occasion, you deserve all of this. Matt would also be quietly taking great pleasure in the fact that I'm now standing here telling you all about him, as he knows I'm not a fan of public speaking. Matt was calm, methodical, and eager to learn. He made good decisions and was a good communicator. He was eager to hone his skills so that when the time was right, he would commence his detective training. Slowly started to upskill him, giving him more and more challenging, complex investigations, which he took in his stride. Nothing fazed him. He enjoyed actual investigations rather than responding. At the beginning of this year, Matt went through some tough times, which included his grandfather passing away and being between flats. PST4 rallied around him. Matt went to stay with one team member Peter Hamdy and his wife to help him out. Matt apparently had a bit of a panic on one occasion while staying there. Matt was super clean and tidy. On this occasion, he prepared a meal and returned to his room. A couple of minutes later, he came racing back to the kitchen, apologising as he'd left a dirty pan in the sink. I also heard Matt may have seized an opportunity while they were overseas and reorganised their kitchen. Matt loved playing golf and played a lot with the section. I could always tell when Matt had been playing golf. He would turn up for night shift, looking pleased with himself. His face would also be sporting a delightful shade of red as he had been sun-kissed. Matt was a creature of habit. One of those habits was after attending family harm incidents. Matt would always insist on going to the beach to finish the report. Matt loved taking in the view, and he had his favourite places in most of the areas that we cover, such as Red Beach, Snells Beach, but really any beach would do. At the beginning of March this year, Matt moved into a flat in Hobsonville. He loved this flat and said his flatmate was awesome. He loved the area, and the whole Hobsonville environment was perfect for him. Not long after moving into this flat, Matt got a spark back in his eyes. He spoke to me more and more of wanting to progress his career. He wanted to change stations to gain more experience before doing CIB induction and commencing his detective training. He was very excited about his plan, and so was I. Matt looked at going to the impairment prevention team, also known as TAG or the Booze Bus, as a chance to refresh, better hours, less overtime, and he could pick and choose jobs. Matt was a very hard-working officer. Everything had its place and everything was immaculate. He managed his time well, completing all his workplace assessments on time. He always delivered a high standard of work. I recall his final assessments. He continually fussed over them, fine-tuning them and making sure they were perfect to his standard. The field training officer and myself had already gone through them and they were fine how they were, but Matt insisted on perfection. Matt was so keen to change his designation from probationary constable to constable, he prepared his report requesting the change prior to completing his final assessment. As soon as he was told at the end of the assessment he had successfully completed his workplace assessments, he forwarded the report to me to endorse, which I quickly did, and then went up the chain. And within a couple of hours, our area commander, Mark Fergus, congratulated him on the designation change. We were so pleased for him and could see the pride in his eyes. He was stoked. Matt was very particular about his appearance. Everything had to be very neat. He even got his operational trousers tapered. Matt had his fan club in the community. There were some of our regular female clients who appeared to be quite taken with Matt and his eye-catching, neat appearance. On one occasion, one of these females boasted of how she had recently done her eyebrows for Matt. Another one used to say, "Hi Matt," as she batted her eyelashes at him. Her partner wasn't too pleased and kept asking, "Which one of you is Matt?" every time the section dealt with him. Matt never really had to use tactical options. As I mentioned earlier, he was a good communicator. He could often negotiate with people. He never used the tactical weapons we carry on us. If he had to use force, it was only minimal arm restraining techniques. In 2.5 years of frontline police work, I believe Matt has only had to write one tactical options report. This is some of the report he wrote in relation to empty hand tactics which he used on a mentally affected person he dealt with. On arrival to the hospital, the male was placed in a secure room. He was required to be searched, which was carried out by the attending police staff. The male was non-compliant with instructions. At this stage, I placed the male at actively resistant on the tactical options framework. A search was carried out and a yellow craft knife was found inside his right hoodie pocket. He was asked to hand the knife to police, however, failed to do so. He was grasping the knife tightly in his left hand. Force was required to take the knife from the male. As police attempted to take the knife using empty hand tactics, he received a small cut to his right hand from the knife blade. This was an unintentional result of removing the item from him. It is believed the male had the knife due to his paranoia, which he later admitted was the reason. He did not attempt to use the knife against anyone or himself. Following the search, the male became cooperative. That was Matt. Humble, caring, and proud. He made an impression on all who met him. He was so proud of wearing the uniform. I just want to finish by saying, Matt, rest in peace. I've got the team. You'll not be forgotten.
In turn, Matt's friends, Shane McLennan, Regan Green and Sam Swarfield will give us a taste of their friend.
Good morning. My name is Shane McLennan, and I'm lucky enough to call Matt a friend and a brother for the past 23 years. We spent 16 of those years in some form of education, from year 1 in primary school all the way through to studying the same thing at university. Matt was alongside me on my biggest day as my groomsman, and more recently spent a couple of years living with my wife Michelle and I. Matt and I had a lot in common. We both enjoyed sports, and over the last few years as Matt started getting into golf, we would get out on the course whenever we could. We shared a passion for good food, especially dumplings, and Matt, Michelle and I tried a few different places on multiple occasions, with Matt introducing us to Eden Noodle, which was one of his favourite places. I have a huge number of memories of Matt, and whilst I can't share them all with you today, and maybe some of them never with his mum, I can share a few. Matt turned up at Oura North Primary after the start of year 1, this goofy little kid with purple framed glasses and a questionable hairstyle. And although I don't remember a lot from all those years ago, I do remember 2 things. 1, he had 2 girls chasing him for most of our primary school years. I won't name them, but they know who they are. And 2, he was just a genuinely nice kid, and that didn't change over the years. During college, Our friend circle grew and added more lifelong friends, most of which you see here today. Matt had this ability where he could just make connections with people so easily. He was that type of guy that, as many of you know, got on with everyone, which is amazing considering he was an introvert. As we reached university, Matt and I signed up for a Bachelor of Arts degree at AUT in what was the beginning of our next 3 years of our education journey. Matt took it a little more seriously than I did, which is probably why he graduated 6 months before me. But he was always there. He even turned up on his lunch break to see me graduate. Matt was pretty controlled with his spending, as are most students, and on Wednesdays we always took the opportunity to go to the kebab place just down from AUT Tower to grab a $5 rice meal. He also always opted for the free lunch that the AUT student body put on every Thursday. And we had to be on time because otherwise the falafel was all gone. During the years when Matt lived with Michelle and I, he was the best flatmate. As those who knew him well will know, he was a clean freak. Everything had its place, it always had to be perfect, and that's just who he was. During those years, for some reason, we decided to start having hot sauce with our food. It became a challenge. We would research the Scoville scale and how hot different chilies were. We started off pretty mild, working our way up to some of the hottest chilies in the world. I remember one day Matt brought a bottle home, and for some reason we thought our taste buds were immune to it. It was one of the hottest chilies you can buy. But Matt decided to have a teaspoon of it anyway. I guess just to try it out. Well, within about 30 seconds, he was out on the deck with his shirt off, a bottle of milk in his hand, tears streaming down his face and asking for his mum. To this day, the bottle of hot sauce is in our fridge and doesn't get used. Matt moved out just before going to police college to start his next chapter. Our last catch-up in person was on March 15th, where Michelle and I met him for breakfast at Hobsonville Wharf. We talked about what was next for all of us. I was starting work the next week just down the road from his place, and we talked about having coffee and golf each week on Matt's day off, something I can now only dream of. Matt, you're an outstanding friend, one of the best. You were loyal, modest, caring, and extremely selfless. You were taken too soon, but I was lucky enough to have you in my life, and for that I am grateful. You will never be replaced, never be forgotten, and I know you'll be watching over us as we live on in your memory. We will take care of Diane and Ellie just as you did and be thinking of you always. Until we see you next, I'll continue to enjoy the dumplings and try my best to keep it on the fairway. Love you, brother.
Matt was closer to a brother than a best friend, and I'm not the only one who felt this way about this amazing man. So this speech is on behalf of myself, Sean, Mike, Coxie, and Flinny. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been communicating with these guys and many others, and the most consistent comments have been Matt was selfless, caring, loyal, and completely unaware of how handsome he was. Matt really was the nicest guy in the world. He had the kindest heart and would do anything for any of his friends. He displayed this right up until the end, making sure I made it home after the Blues vs Hurricanes game, when I may have had a few too many. We have so many great memories here at Eden Park with Matt, so to give him a send-off here really means a lot to us lads. In 2015, Matt and I moved to London for the Rugby World Cup. But first, we backpacked our way through Europe chasing girls, sunsets, and festivals. We were successful in 2 out of 3 of those. This was an amazing time in our lives, and we made memories with others from all around the world, many of who will be watching today. The best part of this trip was waking up every morning and exploring a new city with my best mate, even if it was to his 7 consecutive alarms and often a hangover. Some of the highlights from our very cultured trip included Ultra Croatia, Oktoberfest, Yacht Week, Sparty, Ziget, and the Ascot races. One of our favourite spots was Lake Bled in Slovenia, where we took a romantic rowboat trip out to the beautiful church in the centre. Matt was so humble and understated his whole life, and he wouldn't have wanted all this fuss. But it doesn't matter, because he deserved it. He was an amazing human being, and without effort, touched so many lives. Matt was often quiet, but those who knew him best knew whenever he did say something, it was worth listening to. He was an intelligent, happy, and determined man who was all in once he had his mind set on something. Matt was very particular about his presentation. Never a hair out of place, never a scuff on his shoes, never a lint on his clothes. Always looking on point. And his bedroom could only be described as immaculate. Everything was placed perfectly in his rightful place. And just to mess with him, we would move things around his room, and Matt, being Matt, would laugh this off and adjust everything to restore perfect symmetry. Matt really was a part of my family. There was a period of about 4 years where Matt was at my house from Friday to Sunday, always willing to jump on the tractor and give Rocky a hand. Much to Dad's delight, he even lived in my bedroom during a uni placement while I was living down in Queenstown. Whilst he was studying, he worked with my mother, sister, and my wife Brittany at an after-school care, where I hear he was amazing with children. More recently, he went through the journey to becoming a police officer with my brother and watched him graduate when I couldn't be there. So naturally, my family considered Matt as another brother and son. And Matt, they loved you very much. Losing Matt has left us sad, angry, confused, but mostly heartbroken. But Matt, we promise not to cry over you for too much longer, because we know you wouldn't want that. In fact, we promise to use this as motivation to push for more in life and become the best versions of ourselves. We could see that you were ready to take life to the next level, and that's exactly what we're going to do for you, mate. We promise to be there for each other through the toughest time in our lives, always make time for one another in the future, and start up that annual golf trip we'd always talked about. Now I better wrap this up, because I can hear Matt saying, boring. Bro, you were the best friend that many of us could ask for, and we're going to miss you forever. We love you, Matt.
There are over 10,000 sworn police officers serving to protect communities across New Zealand. And when I heard the breaking news on the 19th of June that one of these selfless people had lost their life doing the job that they loved, I was ready to be devastated for whoever it was. But nothing was going to prepare me for the news that not only had New Zealand lost a police officer, but I had lost a brother and my best mate. There are split seconds in my day where I forget what's happened. Driving past a restaurant Matt would like, seeing a funny photo, reading a sports update, or getting excited about an upcoming event. Things I would be quick to share with Matt and talk to him about. But these moments disappear as fast as they arrive, once I realise that messages will go unread, calls unanswered, and knocked doors unopened. Whilst I'm not ready to say goodbye, it is important for us, and you, Matt, that we begin to try. No 28-year-old should have to speak at their best friend's funeral. But, mate, we agreed that one day we would speak at each other's weddings. So it is only fitting that I stand here today and let you know how much you mean to me. I've been hearing a lot from the police family that Matt was a great police officer, which comes as no surprise to us because in order to be a great police officer, you first need to be a great human. And as you have already heard from the people talking before me today, we know that with Matt, that was the absolute truth. And I'm a better man for having had Matt so close to me for the best part of 20 years. Matt truly is a part of who I am, and it is the parts that I'm most proud of. The memories we have together are ones I will never forget, but it is the gap left by the memories that we were yet to make that will break my heart forever. The best thing that has come out of the last 3 weeks is that as a group we have been able to come together and share stories of our time with Matt. We have managed to figure out that by sharing these stories, what we've managed to figure out by sharing these stories is that although Matt had the same strong character in every interaction, it showed slightly differently to each person. Everyone got the Matt they needed for them, so in everyone's eyes, they got the perfect Matt. For me, my perfect version of Matt was a supportive, dedicated, loyal, and encouraging friend. To sum Matt up in a nutshell, I mentioned to him that I wanted to run a couple of half marathons this year to give myself a distraction as I worked through some challenges. 1 week later, Matt, who had not run more than 10 kilometres since high school, had new running shoes, a running watch, and together we booked 6 half marathon trips around New Zealand for the second half of this year. Runs that I will still do, but have just come a bit harder. Besides spending time at the breakfast buffet, some of my favourite memories with Matt are ones on the sports field at Orewa College. Although there were several sports that we played together, on reflection, it is the mighty sport of lawn bowls where I learnt the most about Matt as a person and ourselves as a friendship. For those that don't know lawn bowls, when you're playing in pairs, there are 2 distinct positions, a lead and a skip. When Matt and I played together, he was the lead and I was the skip. The lead goes first, and their role is to set the team up with the best foundation to win. To be a good lead, you need precision, discipline, and patience. All things that Matt had and that I lacked. After the lead sets the game up, the skip comes in and takes all of the glory. They can knock balls out of the way, take the more aggressive shots, and are often left with the game-winning bowl. This again, for me, sums up Matt. He was a calculated foundation builder, did everything with discipline and precision, and although fiercely competitive, never wanted the limelight. At 28, Matt was just coming out of building the perfect foundation for himself. Mate, the places that you were going to go, it is up to us now, mate, to do you proud and to carry on the journey that you had just started. Our journey through life will be a lonelier one, but we know you are with us, and we will be waiting for the little signs to let us know that you are there. Every time I hit a 5-iron straight down the middle of a fairway, every time I go to eat something I know I shouldn't and think, what would Matt say? Every time I put my running shoes on and need that extra bit of gas to get me home. Every pint in the sun, every rugby game, every time I need to talk to somebody who can fix any problem. Every sunset, every clear sky night, every shooting star, and every time the rain breaks just as we need it to. And mate, when I go back to bowls like we plan to do in our 50s, every time I get the chalk out to mark my leads toucher, I'll know it was you pushing the bowl along. Because Matt, wherever you have gone, you have taken a piece of us with you. But I just want you to know that wherever you go in the future, we're going to take a piece of you with us. I don't think I'll ever be ready to say goodbye. So for now, just know that I love you, mate.
Thank you. Diane's brother Rob is going to lead the family in their stories and tributes.
On June 19, my wife was sitting at our dining room table with our daughter and our granddaughter. At around 11 o'clock our time, my sister started texting my wife, "A policeman's been shot." She texted her for about 20 minutes, half an hour, going through various scenarios. It can't be Matt. It isn't Matt. They would have told me by now. And then the text stopped. And the phone started ringing. And we knew it was Matt. My name's Rob Winterbottom. I'm Diane's brother, Matt's uncle. Wendy and I have lived in Melbourne for the last 34 years, so catching up with Matt was generally for special occasions. Diane brought Matthew and Ellie to Australia several times when they were children and young adults. We enjoyed Easters, a camping trip away, Christmas one year, and Matt's cousin Lauren's 21st birthday. Back here in New Zealand, we got together for, amongst other events, Gran and Papa's 50th wedding anniversary, Gran's 80th, both my brother and my 50th birthdays, and Papa's 90th. We most recently saw Matt in January at Papa's funeral. The memories we held dear now hold even more significance in our hearts. Little things that were simple, amusing memories now mean the world. Wendy and I were talking about some of the funny things Matt would come out with. When calling him for lunch on one of their visits as a 10-year-old kid, he'd always answer without fail, "That's my name, don't wear it out." On another trip, "How's your grinma?" was his greeting, and also invariably his response to most questions, regardless of the question. Another funny memory was bringing him a St Kilda AFL football. Such was Matt's love for rugby, I've never seen that ball ever again. He was a funny kid, with all the cheeky confidence you'd expect from a kid from the coast. Matt's sister Ali, my wife, Graham and I spent the last 14 days in quarantine, and over that time we've talked a lot of different things. One topic that arose was regarding Matt's quirks, the little things that made Matt, Matt. We went through stacks of photos looking for the best ones of him. As a kid, he hated having his photo taken, hated it. On one visit, he took off on his bike as we were leaving and the camera came out. That was Matt. As with the camera, when Matt grew up, he never sought the spotlight. He conducted himself in his quiet and unassuming way. He never seemed to overreact to a situation and presented a quiet voice of reason. Clearly, a quality that he put to good use in his career in the police force. There's been a lot of public outpouring and tribute for Matt since his death, as there should be. You guys have lost an enormous asset, a tremendous person. You've heard it from his friends, you've heard it from his colleagues. The man that lies in front of you is just a supreme example of a human being, one that we can all aspire to be. As I said, Matt's death has reached many. And from Rainella Drive was touched enough to write a poem for Matt. I'm going to read it. My heart is breaking for you, although we didn't meet. I can't believe you lost your life in my very street. It's senseless and unnecessary. Words cannot describe. If only things were different, you'd still be alive. I laid some flowers for you and said my own goodbye. We sang, we prayed, we gathered. We remembered and we cried. So thank you for the job you did in serving us so well. Your colleagues talk about you with only good to tell. I'm thinking of your family and the friends you've left behind. But they can celebrate your life and keep you top of mind. We always will remember you, a hero through and through, our hearts all beating blue. Matt was too young to go. He will never get to do the things that most of us will. He won't get married, he won't have children or grow old. But one thing he now has is immortality. His name will live on. He won't be forgotten. Long after we've gone, in the annals of time, Matthew Dennis Hunt, the 33rd serving New Zealand police officer to lose his life serving New Zealand, will always be remembered. MHIH 84. Rest in peace, Matt. We love you.
Thank you, Rob. Sister Ellie and Mum Diane, when you're ready.
Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Matt's sister. My name is Ellie, or Eleanor, or if you're Matt, pronounced Elnor. He missed the vowel. He missed a vowel. My most fond memories of Matt are the most recent ones, and so I'd like to start by sharing one of them. Last year, I flew back to New Zealand to visit our grandmother in Mount Maunganui, who is unwell. Matt drove down from Auckland after work to meet up, and we spent a few hours with Gran at Tauranga Hospital. That afternoon, we needed to drive back home to Auckland. Now, Matt wasn't really the type to let other people drive his car, which he called Wingy, but on this occasion, he handed me the keys. It took me by surprise, but without making a fuss, I just hopped in the driver's seat, feeling chuffed, and off we set. It was this journey of ours that I remember so fondly, not just because Matt trusted me with his car, but because of the journey. I hadn't seen Matt in months. So through the hours of driving home, we just reconnected and talked about day-to-day life, work, travelling, and our interests. It sounds so simple, but it really meant so much. I'm sure you too will be able to reflect on your memories and moments with Matt, whether it be the way he said your name, a conversation you might have had with him, his handshake or his hug, and think about them as fondly as I do. I'd like to finish by reading a poem. It's called His Journey's Just Begun by Ellen Brenneman. Don't think of him as gone away. His journey's just begun. Life holds so many facets. This earth is only one. Just think of him as resting from the sorrows and the tears in a place of warmth and comfort where there are no days and years. Think how he must be wishing that we could know today how nothing but our sadness can really pass away. And think of him as living in the hearts of those he touched. For nothing loved is ever lost, and he was loved so much. You will be deeply missed, Matt. All my love from your sister, Eleanor.
No mother would want to be in the position I find myself in today. My kind and loving Matthew was born 29 years ago this month, a much-wanted baby and taken home to Onehunga. He was a lovely, easy baby and a joy to be around. We moved to Hillsborough and Eleanor arrived not long after. Raising two children just 20 months apart was a very busy time in my life, but it was also extremely fulfilling and has been the highlight of my life. The three of us enjoyed 3 years at Hillsborough Play Centre, and we made wonderful friendships with families that lasted for years after. Each Christmas, a group of us took our children to Smith & Coe's to have a picture taken with Santa, and it was a chance for us mothers to keep each other updated with our children's milestones as they move through the primary school years. My parents Matthew's grandparents, took Matthew to a vintage car club Christmas party when he was little, and Santa arrived with gifts for the children. Mum said when Matthew's name was read out to receive his present, he looked up at her with his big blue eyes, and he said to her in wonderment, "How did Santa know I was here?" Mum said her heart nearly burst. I moved my family to the Hibiscus Coast because I believed they could have a better childhood, and this proved to be true. Friendships formed in those first few years are still with us today. The children were able to move freely around Orewa, and I always told them that if they got up to mischief, I'd find out, as someone would tell me. Walking home from primary school one day, a boy turned and threw a stone at Matthew, hitting him just above his eye. He came home with blood pouring out of the cut, and he said to me, "Why would he have done this to me?" Matt couldn't understand why someone would want to hurt him, as even at that young age he wanted to see the good in other people, as he would never have done such a thing himself. We had camping holidays at Whananaki with other Hibiscus Coast families. Matthew was included in holidays with his friends' families, and we had memorable holidays in Melbourne spent with my brother and his family. There was always sports on the weekends to keep us busy. Soccer, surf life-saving, softball, swimming at the leisure centre. I worked at Orewa College during the time my children attended the school, so I was always able to watch them from afar as they moved through the high school years. I saw the young man he was to become through his early sporting interactions, passing the soccer ball so that another team member could score the goal, shaking the hand of a competitor as soon as he realised he'd beaten them, allowing others to take the winning trophy to the school principal. Always a quiet achiever at school, always very capable, a lover of learning. Matthew talked his friend Shane into completing the same degree as him at AUT. As many young people do, Matthew headed off to the UK with his friends and enjoyed a wonderful carefree time travelling through many different countries. One of the highlights was watching the All Blacks play at Cardiff in the World Cup. I stayed with him in London, and we had a lovely time together, eating out, looking at fur coats at Harrods, walking around Clapham Common, and enjoying Hyde Park. Matthew loves sports, whether playing or being there on the sidelines cheering on his friends. He loved the physicality of sport and the mental training required to achieve. His heroes were sporting greats. Just recently, he watched the Michael Jordan documentary, and I know how much he admired the mental and physical prowess of people like Michael Jordan and the All Blacks. From a very young age, Matthew expressed his desire to join the police. It never wavered, and Matthew found his forever family with the police. It was a perfect fit for him. These last few months of Matthew's life saw him looking at his career pathway within police, loving CrossFit, attending blues games, playing golf with his friends, signing up to compete in the 6 half marathons Sam mentioned, and coming to have dinner with me. He had everything to live for. We saw you, Matthew. Those who love you saw behind your veil of humility, and we saw the calibre of the man you were destined to become. I love you, Matthew, now and forever. Every day, in every way, you made me so, so proud to be your mum.
Thank you all. Shortly, I will bring our service to a close. We will all be standing as Matt is carried out. Once he has left, I will ask you all to sit and we will begin our exits. Police first, and then the rest of us to the stands. Matt, understated, authentic, intelligent, a multifaceted young man with huge integrity who appreciated structure, deeply kind, calm and considered. A man who showed up differently to each person. What was needed was given. As we mark the end of his watch, life will never be the same. We, his family and friends, have the difficulty of living on without his physical presence. A precious reminder to live the life that is ours right now. We have heard that Matt was passionate about sport and his physical fitness. A week before his death, Matt was here at Eden Park with his mates, enjoying a blues game. In special tribute to Matt, Eden Park have added the seat he sat in that day to their seats of honour. Painted in just the right shade of blue, it will be a link, a reminder of all the small ways and big ways that Matt's presence will still be among us. Thoreau has said, "There is no remedy for love but to love more." And in the spirit of love, I offer you Jan Richardson's Blessing for the Broken-Hearted. Let us agree for now that we will not say the breaking makes us stronger, or that it is better to have this pain than to have done without this love. Let us promise we will not tell ourselves time will heal the wound, when every day our waking opens it anew. Perhaps for now it can be enough to simply marvel at the mystery of how a heart so broken can go on beating, as if it were made for precisely this, as if it knows the only is more of it, as if it sees the heart's sole remedy for breaking is to love still, as if it trusts that its own persistent pulse is the rhythm of a blessing we cannot begin to fathom, but will save us nonetheless. Please stand. Matt, as one, we give thanks for your life. In gratitude for your genuine goodness, we ask that deep rest and peace be yours. Farewell. Thank you. Our love will travel with you always. you.